Schnaittach, a small village with about 8,600 residents in Franconia, Bavaria, southern Germany. The village lies at about 35 kilometers northeast, just outside of the city of Nuremberg. Named after the river which flows through, the town is mostly quiet and peaceful, especially during winter, where it can get really frosty. The people of the town are considered orderly, friendly, and hospitable folk, where everybody knows one another. During this time, a resident of Schnaittach, 25-year-old former IT student and now IT specialist, Ingo P, who worked for a massive IT company, logs onto a dating app. Swiping away, he finally gets a match with another person, the 22-year-old Stefanie P. The two hit it off immediately, and after a couple of dates, they become a couple. Not long after becoming a couple, they announced their engagement in the early months of 2017. According to an interview Ingo P gave to a local newspaper, he and his fiance moved into the upper floor of his parents' two-story house, with his parents living in the bottom floor. He also adds to the article that his future wife-to-be and his parents got along pretty well, with her helping around the house and the garden. "My parents were glad that she was there," he told the interviewer. He also states having a very good and deep relationship with his parents himself, and that both couples have invested large sums of money into the house. According to Ingo and Stefanie, in the early morning of Wednesday, December 13th, the engaged couple came down to the ground floor of the house to find the elderly residents Elfriede and Peter P packing their bags. When the younger couple asked where they were heading, the elderly couple stated that they were traveling for visitations. Ingo P quickly concluded from this ongoing conversation that his parents wanted to visit relatives in Czechia. The family P, who were originally Sudeten Germans, which are ethnic Germans living in the northern provinces of Czechia, had many relatives living there. According to Ingo, his parents would do this quite often, which is why he did not further inquire on the matter. Elfriede and Peter P also stated that they would return in 2 weeks, on the 27th of December 2017. Later during the day, the elder couple seemed to have disappeared without the younger couple noticing their departure. Then they departed. We haven't noticed directly when and how exactly they did this. So we can't really say if they got picked up by friends, acquaintances, relatives, or if they maybe took a train. In the past, they even took a cab from time to time. All of these were methods in which they have traveled before, Ingo P stated in an interview which aired on January 16, 2018 at a local TV news station called Frankenfernsehen.tv. Ingo P calls his local registry office. He inquires about marriage appointments, certificates, and its process. He gets an appointment for the 29th of December 2017 to make it official. Ingo, who hasn't seen or heard from his parents for over 10 days now, attempts to get a hold of them via phone call. Over the next couple of days, and especially during the holidays, he would attempt this daily, multiple times. His attempts were in vain, however, because he couldn't reach them. Well, in the past, a lot of the time their phones were just shut off. But yeah, it was still a bit weird. They did say they were coming back on the 27th. Ingo stated in the same interview with Frankenfernsehen.tv. Ingo P and his fiance Stefanie P were both waiting for his parents to return. With the Christmas presents still waiting under the family tree, the engaged lovebirds waited eagerly for the elderly couple to return. The younger couple expected the elders to return sometime during the day or the evening, since they were known for traveling around a lot using different modes of transportation to do so. While they were waiting and no sign of the elderly couple for the past 2 weeks, Ingo P and his fiancée Stefanie were looking around his parents' house for any clues or indications of where they might have gone. Due to his parents still not arriving from their trip, Ingo P and his fiance, Stefanie, decided to inform the local police about his missing parents, Elfriede and Peter P. Right after, the police immediately started with their investigations. They inspected the house of the elderly couple multiple times and even started investigating abroad in Czechia or even France. My parents were fluent in French, and my dad has a former colleague from work there, Ingo explained to a local newspaper. Even though his parents went missing and he had reported them being so to the local authorities just the day before, Ingo P and his fiancée Stefanie were described as being very happy and carefree during their marriage appointment at the local registry office. At the end of December 2017, early January 2018, Ingo P started funding campaigns on Facebook to finance missing persons reports in newspapers abroad. He gave interviews to local newspapers and TV stations about his missing parents, where he would state being very desperate to find his parents. Interviewers, however, would notice their unusually calm behavior during these interviews and rapid responses to questions such as, "Why don't any of you know what their travel destination is?" They would also notice contradicting statements the couple would give to different news outlets, which didn't make a lot of sense. During his TV interview with Frankenfernsehen.tv, Ingo P stated that it was unusual for his parents to be gone for this long from their hometown without calling their son, quoting his father with, "My father was born in Schnaittach. He would always say, 'I was born in Schnaittach and it will end for me in Schnaittach.'" Special forces of the German authorities raided the home of Peter and Elfriede P and arrested their son, Ingo P, and their daughter-in-law, Stefanie P. The police is accusing Ingo P of murdering his own parents and Stefanie of plotting and inciting to kill her in-laws. The police concluded from their investigations that the newlyweds were behind the disappearance of the elderly couple. The police at first handled the case as a missing persons matter to the public eyes, but internally everyone knew that the couple, Ingo and Stefanie P, were the main suspects. Their suspicious behavior after the disappearance of Elfriede and Peter P raised multiple eyebrows within the police department. The department found it weird how calm and relaxed the couple gave statements not only to the police but also to local newspapers and TV stations. The couple contradicted themselves during multiple interrogations with the police. Even the statements on TV and in the newspapers didn't align perfectly with what was being said at the station to investigators. The police tapped their phones and monitored their activities on the internet, only to find more damning evidence against the couple. Especially their Google search histories and their WhatsApp chat history were of great importance to the case and allowed the prosecution for an arrest warrant against the two. Google searches included multiple tags from October 2017, which were looking for plant poisons, chemicals, and seeds. Ingo P even ordered multiple poisonous plant seeds and the chemical gamma-butyrolactone, GBL for short, off the internet. GBL can cause nausea and if combined with alcohol even lead to death. At one point, the couple reportedly tried to poison the parents. The mother, Elfriede P, fell ill to this attempt, but managed to recover because the dose wasn't enough to kill her. Upon entering the home, the police immediately noticed that the house just underwent multiple renovations and was thoroughly cleaned. However, these renovations weren't done professionally, and rather looked like they were done in order to eliminate evidence. The bedroom walls were freshly painted, a pit in the garage was concreted over, and a wall looked very suspicious since the concrete on it looked fresh. While digging up the pit in the garage, the police found traveling suitcases. While ripping apart the suspicious wall inside the garage, however, they found the corpses of the two elderly people. The corpses were later confirmed as being that of Elfriede and Peter P. During her arrest, Stefanie P immediately denied all of the claims and charges brought against her and started blaming her husband, Ingo, for being the sole perpetrator of the murders. Officers involved in her arrest later stated that Stefanie would not stop talking even before she was read her rights. She was also the one who told the authorities where to find the corpses of Elfriede and Peter P. But why did this newlywed couple kill their own parents/in-laws? What could have led to such a heinous act when both couples supposedly got along so well with each other? Soon after the engagement, Ingo P asks his fiance Stefanie P if she would like to move in with him. Ingo P was living in the house of his parents, 66-year-old Elfriede and 70-year-old Peter P at the time in the village of Schnaittach. Stefanie was living with her own parents in another town around the same area, Bogtan, only 35 kilometers or 22 miles away from Schnaittach. Ingo P saw it as a necessity for them to move in together first before getting married. Stefanie, however, wasn't too fond of that idea and told her boyfriend Ingo that she would only move in with him if his parents weren't there. Contrary to their statements in the local press and in reality, Stefanie P and her future in-laws did not get along well with each other. The young engaged couple would often get into arguments and fights about this. In the summer of 2017, Ingo's desperation only increased due to his fiancée Stefanie denying to move in with him and his parents. The young soon-to-be's arguments with each other about Ingo's living situation being in direct confrontation with his requirements in order to get married increased dramatically and got much harsher. The situation got so out of hand that threats of suicide, other means of self-harm, and even the calling off of the engagement were in the room. At one point, Stefanie P made clear that she would be willing to go through with the marriage only if she had him and the house he lived in, which belonged to his parents, for herself. On the night of December 13th to the 14th, Ingo P, wielding a hammer, walks into his parents' bedroom. He starts by hitting his mother on the head with the hammer repeatedly at least 12 times before turning to his father, who tries to escape. Ingo P catches up to his elderly father and a fierce scuffle between the two ensues, which Peter sadly loses. Both parents died that night at the hands of their son Ingo. Stefanie, Ingo's fiancée at the time, later states in a letter to journalists that she was in her own apartment in the house of her parents, doing nothing spectacular, watching a program on TV, and then going to bed at night. Over the next couple of days, Ingo P and Stefanie would hide the bodies of Elfriede and Peter P within the walls of the garage. They would then proceed to renovate and thoroughly clean around the house in order to get rid of evidence. Then, they got married on the 29th and directly moved in together into the house of Elfriede and Peter P. The District Court of Middle Franconia charged Ingo P with the murder of his parents and his wife, Stefanie P, with inciting him to do so. Stefanie P, who would claim during her arrest that her husband Ingo was the sole perpetrator of this crime, suddenly kept quiet in the courtroom. She would claim not knowing anything about the crime nor being a part of preparing for it. She would then further incriminate her husband by stating in front of court that he forced her to help him get rid of the bodies and evidence, threatening her with psychological and even physical violence by means of pressure, beatings, and violent behavior. He then, according to Stefanie P, forced her to live with him in the house of his deceased parents. Stefanie P's defense strategy apparently was that of a battered wife being pressured into committing, helping, and covering up for her abusive husband. The district court, however, blew these statements off rather quickly given the amount of evidence they had against Stefanie P. Besides the Google search and WhatsApp chat history secured off of her phone, further evaluation of the case only strengthened the district attorney's case against Stefanie. A following medical examination of Stefanie also concluded that there were no signs hinting towards her being physically abused by her husband Ingo, despite these supposed attacks being only a few days prior. One of Stefanie P's ex-boyfriends stated in court that the relationship was overshadowed by her being very controlling. Stefanie would always hate and incite violence on said ex-boyfriend's sister, even going as far as saying that she would be glad if said sister was dead. Further evidence also includes that Stefanie P, even if she was being physically threatened by Ingo P, could have easily left him or even ran away from him. Camera footage, which was secured recording in front of the house of the family P after the murders, concluded that Stefanie at one time only visited Ingo for 7 days straight, being in her own home afterwards only to go to bed. She was also recorded multiple times having a smoke in front of the P residence. The couple would also spend the Christmas holidays together with Stefanie's parents. Mentioned earlier, they also went to the registry office and planned their wedding together. The newlyweds then proceeded to buy dogs together, and on top of all that, they gave an interview to a TV station in their living room. The judge stated that even though she knew that her fiance murdered his own parents, she still willingly came to visit him every day after that by her own accord. Stefanie, however, in her letters from February 19, 2022, which she sent out of jail to journalists of the online YouTube magazine Der Fall, would claim that this was not possible, even if it seemed so, stating, "My fear of Ingo and the shame of being a domestic abuse victim once again was just far too great." Despite all of these counterclaims by Stefanie, the court ruled that Ingo P only committed these murders because she incited and instructed him to do so. Ingo himself had a very deep relationship with his parents, but the fact that Stefanie would not move in with him because of his parents seems to have won the upper hand in morals within Ingo. Stefanie was consequently charged, tried, and found guilty with soliciting her then fiance Ingo to murder his own parents, even when she wasn't at the scene during the crime. Ingo P was charged, tried, and found guilty for the murder of his parents. Both were sentenced to life in prison, which in German law terms means 15 years. Their motives were seen by the court as being abject due to the couple's wish of moving in together on their own and not having to get into any future confrontations with Ingo P's parents. Ingo P's murder of his mother especially was defined as being insidious due to her sleeping while being killed. Motives being defined as abject and insidious are seen as especially daunting in front of German courts, making their sentences even harsher in most cases. Stefanie P, to this day, does not accept her sentence and even went into revision multiple times. Even after 4 years behind bars, 21 days of negotiations in front of court, and 2 revisions, I have not given up, and I will not give up until the truth comes to light.